If you remember the last talk, it was about the box, so it was like founding a new company. And the next talk will be held by Marco, which will be which is from the yeah, it's like in German it's called Gründerstammtisch, right? Yeah, it's something like Founders Table. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Founders Table here in the area for like 2 years, something like that. Yeah. So if you're interested in building up a new company or something like that, or just want to keep in touch with probably cool new companies, he's probably the right one to talk to. So I will hand over to him for the next talk. Have fun.
Thank you for the nice introduction. To start off quickly, who has ever heard of Startup Weekend? I guess about 30–35%. Okay, that's a nice number, actually. That is a big word up there. A global phenomenon. Global in itself means like every sentient being we know to exist. And the question is, what does a global phenomenon mean when I say a startup weekend is that? Well, let's first start off, what does it mean to be global? Well, it has to work everywhere. Everywhere on the planet Earth, there are people that are doing startup weekends. I don't want to bore you with statistics. There have been about over 1,000 startup weekends last year in over 126 countries. So it's global, trust me. What is the startup weekend? I'm going to show you. To show you that it's really global, that's just a picture of the website where they list all these startup weekends. This weekend, there's one in Iraq. Next weekend, there's one, the same weekend, there's one in the Dominican Republic, in Canada, in a military base in the USA. There's one in Australia. So, like, all around the world, in Asia, everywhere, people are doing startup weekends right now. Like, every weekend. You can find that on startupweekend.org. Those are basically one of the most interesting events that I've ever attended. Why is that so? Well, it started in 2007 with that guy, Andrew Hyde. If you're interested in traveling the world or living on the bare minimum, he's the guy to Google. He's like, somebody read about him, that he's just 50, has 15 things. So just 15, nothing else. And he lived on that perfectly for a while. He ran the Techstars incubator in New York for a while. So he started Startup Weekend just in 2007, 7 years ago. And since that, it has developed in this global thing. And, well, what is it to attend to a Startup Weekend? Because it would be easy to try to explain the Startup Weekend via a chart, but it won't tell you how it feels. So let's take you through it the way we did our Startup Weekend, because everything global has to work local, like we heard before, and I completely support that notion. Everything good starts with a barbecue. Our event started with really good food, and that's how most Startup Weekends start. They invite you. You get there, you meet interesting people, you have good food, and you talk. Basically, you just get to know each other. And then there's discussion starting up. People already tell themselves about, if you look here, this is Dominic on the left. He already has himself branded as a developer. Such events, it's quite dangerous to do that. And then there comes a time when somebody like that, weird fellow, comes and tells you, go get inside, get in a room, we're going to do something. And what you're doing is you're pitching. You're telling all the audience, basically an audience a little bit bigger than this, what you want to do. Like, what is your really idea in starting a company? Or sometimes it's just starting a social movement. It's how to start, basically, and what you want to do. And you have to be brave because you have just 60 seconds. Sorry for that potato image, by the way. You see there's a line on the left, and there's actually a friend of mine, Marco's, pitching over there. And he's telling in 60 seconds what his dream is about. He has this vision, and with all the fire that he has inside of him, he's trying to convince the crowd that, hey, please, I need you guys to make this possible because I'm just one of the founders, and please, I need some second crazy person to start this with. Well, he did this quite well. And what we end up with is the people that have pitched, they put everything they pitched again on a second board, hold it up, and let the audience decide which are the 10 best startups that have pitched the 10 best ideas. And then this happens. Wait, if we want to actually do this, we need developers, we need designers, we need people to actually do the hard work. Well, and the good thing is, at a startup weekend, you find these people. Because if you want to start a company, you have to be driven. And in most cases, driven people already on their way acquire certain abilities, and those happen to include development and design. And not only that, also business and ethics would be good as well. Well, if you find your team, you start to work. You really go into the grid. You have to test out your idea. You talk in groups. And what you see here, this is a business model canvas. I think some people have seen that. It's a way to actually describe your business to make it basically visible on a sheet of paper, and try to see out if there are blank spots. If there's something that's not working, if you haven't thought about anything, you can see that in a business model canvas quite easily. There is programming, obviously. There's also fun. Don't remember, there's people who've paid about 50 euros to work on a weekend. It's a kind of strange mind attitude to do that, so it gets funny, especially late, especially when there's beer. So people go on, and on the Saturday, you are driven with mentors. Mentors come to you and tell you, hey, have you thought about being financially stable? Is there an income stream for what you're trying to do? Have you tested anything yet? Because on Saturday, you have a whole day to actually find out if your idea has some worth. And you can't do that on a weekend. You can quite easily go outside and ask people. You can put up a website and put some Facebook advertisements out and try to see if people actually click on what you're interested or in what you're offering. And as you see with driven people, there's still work there. There's still excitement there. There's still some energy that still wants to get out on a weekend. Always you have to have food. You have breakfast. You have these kinds of things provided to you. Don't keep your mind off of what you're actually wanting to do. Obviously, there have to be a good deal of energy drinks to get through the weekend. But on Sunday, things get interesting. On Sunday, things get a little tense. Then what you're working on a weekend is a presentation for Sunday. Because on Sunday, you see on the upper right here, there's 4 chairs in our situation for the judges, because you're going to be judged. There is basically a jury deciding who is going to be the idea of the weekend, who is going to be the startup of the weekend. And things fill up. Normally more people than ever attended the whole weekend come to just watch the startups, to just be interested. There's venture capitalists in there, there's investors in there, there's mentors in there, people trying to place good jobs, finding hires. I mean, you don't have to start a business sometimes, but you can meet the most interesting people at such events. And, well, then it gets really interesting. Because then you have 5 minutes to convince those jury people to make you the startup of the thing. Let's cut. I've now just described, now I've tried to give you a feel how it is to attend a startup weekend. Does that explain why it's a global phenomenon? Not really, but it gives you a sense. Because if you think back, let's go completely back to the start. To be global means to work everywhere. It means that there is something that unites that unites the planet, that there are rules working a level below or level higher. Depends where you look for. And if you compare what we do at the startup weekend with how an engine runs, then you can kind of see what's happening. Here, we're gathering fuel, we're gathering air, we're gathering we're gathering energy, and then we put some pressure on it. We compress it. We try to find out who's going to be it. If you are attending, you're not trying to talk to somebody who's just talking air. You're trying to find somebody who gets you to the chase as fast as possible. So there's pressure. There's some tingling in the air. And then, the whole weekend, there's trying to ignite. There's struggle. There's work. There's energy. There is something. And then you try to find out, what can I do? And those are physics. If you put energy if you put fuel into something, if you compress it, and then if you add a spark, then it ignites. And that is something that works everywhere on the planet. An engine works everywhere. And that's the same thing why startup weekends work not only in Rwanda, not only in Syria, not only in Iraq, not only in the US, not only in the Silicon Valley, not only in Japan, not only in Korea. They also work here. That's why I chose photos from our last event in 2012, 2 years ago. Because there is something. Remember this guy on the left, Dominic? Well, he founded Bluebee, the app that you've just been introduced at the start. He founded that on Startup Weekend. Remember this photo from the start? In the middle, there's Patrick. On the right, there's Wolfgang. Patrick just, with his crowdfunding startup, they're just starting to raise a six-digit number of money for an energy efficient program. He's really having success. There is really some bang going. And then on the right, Wolfgang. He's the founder of Sorglos Internet. He's listed as one of the 100 in Berlin, one of the 100 most interesting startups that are coming out of Berlin for the last 5 years. Yeah, he's moved to Berlin. Well, things happen, people change. But still, there was excitement in there. There was something. And that's why it's global. Like she said perfectly, if something has to work globally, it has to work locally as well. And we proved that it did, and we're proving that it also will work again. That's why in this October, we're going to have our next startup weekend. Remember the date, 24th to 26th. We're going to have the startup weekend. Follow us on Twitter, @Rhein-Main, or just Google Startup Weekend Rhein-Main. We'll have more information up soon if you want to join. And we basically have everything that you need to actually get off the started and get connected to a global community. Because when you've attended a startup weekend, you haven't just been to an interesting event and have just met some interesting people. You've gained an experience that not so many people, compared to how many people there are, have actually in common. You've been to some pressure. You're an alumni then. And you know how you talk differently to people. If you talk to other people that have been to a startup weekend, you can see that they see things in a different way. If you've ever tried to just make a sale on a weekend, if you had an idea on Friday and your first sale on Saturday, and on Monday you were already thinking about how to get like 10,000 more of those T-shirts that I want to sell, or how do I actually raise the money to, I don't know, build that laptop that I wanted to build, then you know that there's new things opening up. Thank you.
So, do we have any startup questions? I don't see any hands. Nobody wants to start up something? Yeah, so nothing to start up. So for now we have a break. Sadly we don't have a barbecue. Oh, sorry, yeah, of course. Applause for Mario again.